Good morning, everyone.
Jarrell, just real quick, I do think,
Yeah. I saw it. I want to welcome everyone to our Antelope Valley Regional Meeting for our Best Start. If you would please sign in the chat box. And if you need to choose a language, check our globe and select the language of your choice. This is our agenda for today, ladies and gentlemen. It seems short, but we have a lot of great information we need to present to you today. So before we get started, I'm going to turn this over to my supervisor, Sylvia Scott, who's going to talk to you about the Hispanic Heritage Month. Sylvia.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Thank you for being here today. Yes, today as we begin the month-long celebration of National Hispanic Heritage Month, you know, the theme is very appropriate, I think, this year. The theme is Unidos, or United, inclusivity for a stronger nation. And I think it's so appropriate with the way things are now in our world and how we're, you know, really looking about uniting people and bringing, you know, appreciate and bringing cultures together. So I'm excited to share or begin the kickoff our National Hispanic Heritage Month to honor the cultures and contributions of both Hispanic, Latinos, Latinas, Latinx Americans as we celebrate their heritage rooted in all Latin American countries. And now if I could have Stephanie, please show us this quick video.
Let's celebrate who we are. Let the festivities begin. Vamos a bailar. Like Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, we paint a picture, the world stops and stares. Like Carlos Santana, feel the music inside. J-Lo and Shakira make your body come alive. Wherever you come from, wherever you are, en todo el mundo shine bright like a star. And dance, dance, dance to the rhythm en tu corazón. Dance, dance, dance to the rhythm, join the celebración. Celebrate, we celebrate. We celebrate, celebrate, we celebrate. Sabrocho looked inside our DNA. Ellen Ochoa took our dreams to outer space. As we write a story, the Latin experience comes alive. Allende, Darío, Neruda got stories in every style. Yeah, our culture is rich and delicious. Got thousands of wonderful dishes. Tacos y ropa vieja, chapulines, mole, paella. We take care of our people in need. Jose Andres got a hunger to feed. Siempre comida, amor que servir. Celia Cruz got a song we can sing. Azúcar. Nosotros juntos, el tiempo is now. Honduras, Panamá, Peru, everybody in the house. Nosotros juntos, it's time to celebrate. Cuba, Costa Rica, Ecuador, and Paraguay. Wherever you come from, wherever you are.
Stephanie, for sharing that catchy tune. And I encourage everyone to really, look out. There's plenty of events happening out in our community. Go out there and celebrate and just really, again, celebrate our culture, our heritage, and thank you for allowing us to share that with you.
That was totally awesome. Okay, I'm all jazzed for the rest of the day. I can go through the rest of the workday just dancing and celebrating. That's how that's gonna go. I'm good. I'm good. Again, I want to remind everyone, if you've just joined us, to please remember to sign in, go to the chat box and sign in. And if you need a language, go ahead and choose the globe and select your language. Again, thank you so much for sharing that, Sylvia. Right, and next, I would love to welcome our new attendees. If this is your first time attending one of our Best Start meetings, welcome. We started off great, so you probably got a little pep in your step right now. It's either the caffeine or that great presentation of Hispanic Heritage Month. So either way, you're feeling good right now, right? I want to welcome you. I'm glad you're here. You could be any place else this morning, but thank you for joining us here at Best Start for our regional meeting. I'm going to turn this over to Sylvia again to introduce our first speaker, Miguel Perla. And Sylvia, I'm going to stop sharing and turn this over to you.
Yes, we're very excited to have a few speakers today, and we're starting off with Miguel Perla, who has over 15 years of experience working as an organizer and community relations specialist, providing high quality, culturally responsive community engagement and communication services in LA and beyond. Mr. Perla worked with various Best Start communities as a facilitator and capacity builder, including Best Start Palmdale and Best Start Lancaster. In January 2022, he joined the team of the Office of Violence Prevention as the regional coordinator for Antelope Valley Trauma Prevention Initiative, a community-driven public safety initiative with LA County's Department of Public Health, which has shown promise in helping to reduce incidents of violence in several South LA communities. Miguel is married and is the father of 2 young children. And again, Miguel, thank you for being with us today. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for getting us a little bit hyped and excited with that nice video. It's a good way to start the day, and I recognize and love my mixed roots, African, European, indigenous, and everything else that makes us up as Latinos or as Latin Americans, as Americans, right? So it's good to be here with you all today. I know Carmen is interpreting, so I'm going to start speaking a little slower. As you said, I did want to give shout outs to all of my friends at Best Start Palmdale and Best Start Lancaster, who for over 8 years, I learned a lot from as the facilitator, but I learned much more, I think, from the parents and you community stakeholders and people that work there about what makes communities tick and what makes parenting so awesome. And so now I'm living it as the father of a 2-year-old and now a 4-month-old little girl. So thank you very much. I want to jump into my presentation, so I'll share my screen. Can you all see that, or should I go into presentation mode?
We can see it.
Okay, let's do it this way. So thank you for the introduction. I am the regional coordinator for the Trauma Prevention Initiative of the Office of Violence Prevention. And I want to tell you a little bit about our work, but I want to emphasize or spend a little bit more time asking you some questions regarding your communities, because my work is evolving. And the reason I say that is what we're doing is learning from community residents and others that live and serve the communities in the Antelope Valley about where those areas where you don't feel safe, where you know there's issues, you know something's going on, you may not know exactly what. So I want to dig into that a little bit more. But before going there, I wanted to give you all just a little bit of a background, not just my own, but my own connection with the Office of Violence Prevention, but also how this all started. The objectives today really familiarize you with TPI, the Trauma Prevention Initiative model, and then what we're doing in the Antelope Valley, and then get a sense from you all what's going on. I know some of you may not consider you work in public safety, but our table is large enough that we include folks that are doing childcare or the fire department or teachers. And we'll get to that in a second. So the Office of Violence Prevention really started with a couple of years in 2016. There was an article that came out in the LA Times, and they called it Death Alley. There was an area in Westmont, West Athens. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's close to Helen Keller Park. And so there had been so many shootings and gang-involved murders there that the LA Times came out with this article. And so the folks, a number of different people from Department of Public Health and some other departments decided to put something together and really address this in conjunction with the community residents. And from there, the Trauma Prevention Initiative was born. Today, the Office of Violence Prevention really is an office that seeks to strengthen, collaborate, and commitment and partnerships to prevent multiple forms of violence and trauma, to promote healing across communities in LA County. But since we started in South LA, there was only a couple of a couple of communities that were involved. It was Westmont, West Athens, Willowbrook, and then Florence Firestone, and parts of unincorporated Compton, East Compton, and Rancho Dominguez, but also parts of Compton. The OVP strategy really is multi-pronged. And so you probably have heard of a couple of other things that we're doing, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But generally, our goals or priorities are to strengthen, support children, youth, and families, foster safe neighborhoods, create a culture of peace, and then build the infrastructure for healing, inform policies and systems. As I said, the various communities where we started really were areas that are next to the city of LA. Oftentimes you hear people in these areas, this might sound familiar to some of you in the AV and in those unincorporated areas, that, oh, we don't receive the services that some of these other areas get. Like the city of LA is right next to it, but it's slightly different. There's council members that serve them that people felt a lot more represented by. But in these unincorporated areas, there's less of that, right? You're served by the supervisors, but you don't have that district office you can go to, right? And so the Department of Public Health really wanted to fill in those gaps where those things existed. TPI's principles are community empowerment, and we want to build leadership through community residents of a system of creating decisions and plotting courses with community residents. We want to do this prevention infrastructure. So there's a lot of county departments, there's a lot of city departments, there's a lot of different systems that serve communities that have to do with violence prevention. And oftentimes they weren't talking. And so what we want to do is set a table where we bring these folks together so that there's conversations happening and we start to see where those gaps are. The other is the peer-based violence prevention. Some of you may recognize this as a gang interventionist, with big guys who formerly were part of gangs that stand outside of the schools or maybe in the parks. And that's just one part of it, but it's one very crucial and important part, because a lot of times young people will relate more to people who have walked in those shoes more than a principal or a teacher or even parents. And so we really want to stress that we find value, and we know that there is a way for people to give back to their communities, even if they had in the past done harm or were part of the problem. We know that they can be part of the solution. And then systems change. I think overall what we're trying to do is create a better system, better ways of doing things. And so that means that our table is going to be large enough to bring together many different people and stakeholders. So what we've found over the past couple of years, and of course the pandemic has changed a lot of things, and the last 2 years, of course, may say a little bit different. But before that, from 2016 to 2020, we saw a reduction in the TPI communities. We saw a reduction in assault-related trauma hospital visits. And that's one key indicator that we're using. And so we believe this model is working by bringing people together, by having those street outreach and intervention workers, peace workers in the communities, in those areas that most need it. We think that the combination of those things can get in between and interrupt cycles of violence that are created. So last year, the Board of Supervisors voted to expand TPI beyond South LA. And so I'm part of this new initiative to reach out to some of these other communities that also have high incidence of violence. Maybe it's not the same, and what we're finding, it really looks different in many places than in South Los Angeles. But we expanded for this next year, this year 2022, and we're of course looking to fund an expansion over multiple years. But we've expanded to East LA, Puente Valley, Pomona, Hawaiian Gardens, and Norwalk, as well as the Antelope Valley. In the Antelope Valley, we have some really good partners, and I'm going to tell you about them in a second. But we also have we've hired someone locally from your community. Her name is Diana Love, who will be joining me as a community health worker. And she's going to be organizing with me in the Antelope Valley. So I'm excited about her coming aboard. I'm not sure if she's on today. The strategies that we have, one is the intervention. That's kind of the last thing where someone has already been shot or hurt and is in the hospital, or the street outreach intervention services. When someone is shot, we hope to get the information from either sheriffs or the news, or if they're in a crisis situation, our peace workers can go out and talk to them and give them resources while they're maybe in some of their most vulnerable positions. And so we don't currently have a hospital violence intervention program, but we are working on that. So stay tuned. We do have a street outreach and intervention services, and I'll tell you about that in a second. As far as capacity building, one of the things that we are looking to launch next year is, and actually it's to restart it because they've done it in the past, but we really want to do this capacity building and training technical assistance. The model of doing violence prevention is slightly different than what other folks do. And so we have trainers, we have contacts with folks that teach these methods of violence prevention and interdiction. And so we have that. And then prevention, I think for me is why I am here presenting to you today. We want to start a larger coalition of folks that work in prevention. So I see stakeholders, whether you work at a community-based organization or a county agency, or perhaps you're a community resident that works in some of these areas that are most affected by violence. It is important for you to come to the table and learn about the model that we use, but also to share your information about what are the needs that come out of these communities. What have you seen? Is it summer programming? Is it there are vulnerable young people that are susceptible to older adults to going in negative directions? all of this, and I think this graphic really sums up our view on the public health method of how we're approaching this problem. We consider this stream or river, and downstream, obviously, we have, we're visiting people at the hospital. We're visiting people who have already been victims of gun violence or some other traumatic incident and violence. And we want to work with them, but we want to work upstream. We want to work with people before they get into those situations and start to get them on a better path. And even further, we want to have a further upstream approach. How can our community stop recreating some of these issues or results for young people that usually happen? For example, I'll tell you one thing that people say, and statistics show that every summer there's going to be a lot more murders, violence, and crime. How do we as a community take a step back and say, well, what's not working? What's missing in our community that we need to have and provide for those young people? What if their parents can't pay for services? How can we get those services to people? What are the things that, foster youth need because they don't have certain things? And so all of this is our approach to addressing the needs of our community. Now, I think on the call, we have a couple of our partners. The street outreach contractor that we're working with is called the Helper Foundation. It's a wonderful organization that has been working with various schools and city parks in both Palmdale and Lancaster. What their job is to not just break up fights, their job is to really make relationships with young people before they start fighting. Their job is to a story that they've told me is they saw an abandoned house and they noticed that they got a tip that there's a lot of young people going into this abandoned house in Palmdale. And that, of course, they're doing things they shouldn't be doing, and it's very unsupervised. And so what Helper did was go to those houses and figure out, okay, where's the owner of this? What can the city do to help us out here? And of course, let it be known in the community that house is now off limits. You can't go in that house and be drinking and smoking and doing whatever you're doing in there. And so those were non-law enforcement solutions. And I bet you law enforcement's even happy that they didn't have to deal with such a problem, because it just, there's so many other more important emergency things that they can be dealing with. And so the street outreach team, I really love working with them. I hope that you all get to meet with them soon. And if you're interested in their services, please give me an email or a call back. And then we're also working with the Antelope Valley Partners for Health, who you all know, and I've known for many years, and their excellent work. They're working with us on 2 initiatives that I want to call out. I think some of you may recognize this, and I get to work with Andy and Jackie and Adele, as well as the rest of the folks. But they have 2 things. Some of you may have participated in the violence prevention campaign. That's also funded through the Office of Violence Prevention. But there's some very key differences. The Violence Prevention Campaign, or AVPC, is kind of, if you can imagine, it's a little bit broader and more AV regional wide. And they're tackling issues of suicide prevention, domestic violence, and child abuse, and doing it through social media and other campaigns. The way we're going to approach our work at TPI is more focused and targeted. I don't have the maps to share with you today, but I will in the future. We have mapped out the hot spots in the Antelope Valley and the concentration of where Part 1 crimes, murders, assaults, rapes, other types of very violent and serious crimes are in our community. I don't think they're going to be a surprise to you, but we can discuss that in a little bit. We're going to be focusing on those areas. We're going to be working with the city council people that represent those areas, or some of the county partners that also have some interest in those areas. There's also a lot of schools in some of those areas. There's a lot of businesses that are part of this, and they should be part of the solution instead of being part of the problem. So we're going to bring those things together with our partners, AVPH and the Helper Foundation. These are some of the events that that the Helper Foundation does. If you all know Mr. Stan Mohammed, he's a wonderful executive director, and their team is just fantastic. We recently started meeting with in a super team with AVPH, and so I'm excited about the work that we're going to be carrying out. We don't have a public safety meeting scheduled just yet, but we are going to have one pretty soon. As soon as I can, I will come back on your monthly calls and share that information with you so that you can join us and contribute to this work. Some of our next steps are exactly that. We're going to continue to do the research on where exactly those affected areas are in both, I'll say Palmdale and Lancaster. I think we all know kind of what some of the more impacted areas, even though, of course, crime and violence and traumatic incidents happen outside of the main city areas. I think we know where the concentrations are. We want to do the public safety meetings with our partners on the ground. So if you, we'll be probably reaching out to you if you are a school or an organization that has office space in the area. And then at some point, we're going to be doing these, offering trainings for community members and for stakeholders or agency folks that would like to participate. So that's in a nutshell my work. I am really happy to share it with you all. I know you may have some questions, but before we go to that, in the chat, can some of you put, where do you feel least safe in your communities and why? What are some of those factors leading to that kind of feeling of not being safe? Oftentimes we know that you might be okay in the daytime, but at nighttime, maybe you're not going there, right? So it also matters what time of day we're talking about. So I'll give you a couple minutes. Are there any questions, or would anyone want to contribute anything?
Hello, hi Miguel. If we have
Hi.
any questions that you have for Miguel, could you please, Miguel, share your email, and also because if they want to get in touch with you, and put those questions in the chat because we are on a time constraint right now. But this is such great information. Oh my goodness, I'm loving it. We are going to have you come back and share additional information. But if you do have any questions, concerns, like I do, please feel free to contact Miguel. And he shared his email, but also share those comments in the chat box. All right. Miguel, thank you so much. This is pertinent work, and let's give him a hand applause, thumbs up, because this is important work that we have going on here, especially in our Antelope Valley, where we're seeing things change. And I'll put it like that: things are changing in our valley. Next, I'm going to turn this back over to Sylvia for our next speaker to introduce Jackie. Okay, Sylvia.
Yes, thank you, Darrell. And just wanted to follow up, Miguel, this conversation, it has to continue. It can't be a one and done. So we will be setting up for you to come back or even create some kind of workshops that we can do together to really continue this conversation, because it's vital for our community. Again, thank you. And I'd also like to welcome Jackeline Diaz, who is employed with Bartz Altadonna Community Health Center, an FQHC and PCMH certified health center. As the interim deputy director of operations, Jackie is an LVN in the process of continuing her education to become an RN. Her passion is to provide the best experience to everyone that she serves. Jackie, thank you again for being here with us.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sylvia. I'm trying to share my screen and expand it, but I think I'm having a little issue with it. Is everyone able to see the screen?
We can see it,
Yes,
Jack.
we can see your screen. Yes.
It's a PowerPoint presentation. I think it's throwing me off. Just one sec. It's nice to see everyone and have some adult interaction. It's been a couple of weeks. I've been at home with my kiddos, so give me one sec. Is it okay if I leave it like, oh, here it goes. Okay, here we go. So yes, thank you, Sylvia. I am with Bartz Altadonna Community Health Center. We are, as she mentioned, we are PCMH certified, a FQHC, and also we also are integrated with behavioral health services. So today I will be talking a little bit about childhood obesity. We will be discussing BMI, what are some of the causes and complications, management and prevention for children, or adults as well, can be incorporated for adults. So BMI, a condition where excess body fat is negatively affects our children. The diagnosis of obesity is usually based off a child's BMI. Obesity is the most common nutritional disorder affecting children and adolescents in the developed world. So obese children tend to become obese as adults as well. So we work on preventing. So some doctors have used the terms overweight, obese, and morbid obesity to refer to children and adolescents who weight exceed those expected from their height. The weight varies in continuous rather than stepwise fashion. So it's difficult to find fixed criteria determining obesity. So here on the left side, we have an example. Traditionally, you have a healthy child, they'll if they spend a little bit of time on a screen, video games, watching television, perhaps they're not having much action in their lives, eating chips, candy can result within time to a mild obese child. And with time, they continue to perhaps gain a little bit of weight, an additional 10 pounds, not having much activity, and resulting them to be moderately obese. And with time, they become, excuse me, they can gain an extra 20 to 50 pounds with limited exercise, be uncomfortable with their body image, have low self-esteem, maybe feel that other children make fun of them, resulting with time, to become severely obese as a child. Causing additional health problems like diabetes, asthma, depression, and those children tend to have a higher chance of becoming obese as an adult with continuous health problems such as coronary artery diseases, diabetes, high medical bills, or even mortality. Excuse me. So BMI is the best signal index of obesity. So traditionally it is calculated by your weight in kilograms, height in square meters, and is expressed as a BMI centile in relation to the age and sex matched population. So an overweight child usually is considered their BMI centile would be anything over 91st centile, and obese anything over the 98th centile. So a severely obese child with anything greater than the 3.5 standard deviations of the above mean, and an extreme obesity child for 4 standards of deviation. So children over the age of 12 are considered overweight if their BMI is greater than or equal to 25 kilograms per square meter, and an obese child anything greater or equal to 30 kilograms per square meter, and severely obese with anything greater than or equal to 35 kilograms per square meter, and extremely obese anything over 40. So traditionally, the way this is identified and determined is with routine checks with their health providers, where they're monitoring their age, sex specific. Their growth is plotted in the growth chart to identify the percentile and weight status determined. So I do have a quick link that you're able to link. I'm sure we'll be sharing this presentation with you all after. I will not click the link because it'll take me to another website. However, this is just a sample of what a growth chart would look like, and usually what is utilized during health visits, routinely health visits. So we have an example of a 9-year-old Hispanic boy, which his weight is 40 kilograms and his height is 133 centimeters. And here we have our green dot where he is at the 91st centile, which he is considered an obese child. So some of the childhood obesity is a result of eating too many calories and not getting enough physical activity, opiogenetic environment. So we do want to encourage and stop any unhealthy snacks, stop eating the chips, the eating out with the fried foods, and limit calorie rich temptation foods. So reducing the availability of high fat and high sugar and salty snacks can help your children develop healthy eating habits. Only allow your children to eat these foods rarely so that they truly will be treats. So we have some examples of easy to prepare low fat and low sugar snacks that are 100 calories or less. So you can plan to provide a cup of carrots, 1 cup of broccoli, bell peppers with a tablespoon of hummus, a medium apple or a banana, a cup of blueberries or grapes, 1/4 of a cup of tuna wrapped in lettuce leaf, a homemade oven baked kale chips. So to develop healthy eating habits, you want to provide plenty of vegetables, fruits, and whole grain products. Include low fat or non-fat milk or dairy products, including cheese and yogurt. Choose lean meats, poultry, fish, lentils, and beans for protein. Encourage your family to drink plenty of water. Limit sugary drinks, limit the consumption of sugar and saturated fats. Some factors that do promote the decreased physical activity, as we had mentioned before, is TV, screen time, tablets, transportation. So we don't get much physical activity such as walking, and sedentary lifestyles. So an additional part is genetics plays a role. Overweight family and child may be genetically predisposed to gain excess weight. Environment of high calorie foods, physical activity may not be encouraged. So 80% of children with 2 overweight parents will become overweight. 40% of children with 1 overweight parent will become overweight, and 7 to 9%. 7 to 9% of children with no overweight parents will become overweight. So some of complications of obesity in children and adolescents can affect virtually every major organ system. You can have medical complications usually related to the degree of the obesity and usually are related to the decrease in severity or result with weight reduction. They tend to have psychosocial effects, peer discrimination, teasing at school, acceptance, growth can affect their growth. They're high, may have early menstruations, respiratory issues such as sleep apnea, cardiovascular issues causing hypertension, ischemic heart disease, or even sudden death. Additional metabolic disorders. They can become insulin resistant, type 2 diabetic, and have additional high cholesterol and additional heart conditions. So the primary goal for children with uncomplicated overweight is to achieve healthy eating habits and activity patterns. Childhood and adolescence obesity treatment programs can lead to sustained weight loss and decrease in BMI when treatment focuses on behavioral changes and family-centered. Concurrent changes in dietary physical activity patterns are most likely to provide success. So some of early prevention is begin with promotion of breastfeeding. Age-appropriate portion size for meals and snacks should be encouraged. Children should never be forced to eat when they are not willing to. The importance of physical activity should be emphasized. Time spent in sedentary behaviors such as television, computer games, screen time. And do want to plan a structured weight management for your children. Plan diets, structured daily meals, plan snacks. Again, reduction of screen time, supervised activity, and even self-monitoring behavior, including logs, to make it fun for them and be rewarded if they comply with what their goal is set. So we are, in summary, as we just discussed, incidence of obesity in children is increasing. Obesity is a health concern in itself and also increases the risk of other serious health problems, as mentioned earlier, high blood pressure, diabetes, and physiological distress. An obese child tends to become obese as an adult. Obesity in children may be prevented, treated by increasing their physical activity, lifestyle changes that involve making small gradual changes in behavioral family support is necessary for the treatment. Generally, the aim of a treatment is to help the children maintain their weight so they can grow into it. Most children are not obese because of an underlying medical problem, but as a result of their lifestyle. So at Bartz Altadonna, we are partnered with AVPH. We offer, we actually have 2 chronic disease case management RNs where they provide we have cooking classes, education for their families and group. We also have virtual nutrition services where, we'll have education for the parent and the child both. And for adults as well. But for children, it's just virtually. For adults, we do have more in person. Thank you. Sylvia, thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, thank you so much, Jackie. That's great information. And I just wanted I put it in the chat, but I just wanted to acknowledge that September is National Childhood Obesity Awareness Month. So the information that you presented is so needed at this time, because we got to promote resources and tools that advocate for healthy growth and prevention of obesity in our children. So thank you so much, Jackie. I know that I was reading the chat box and so many wonderful comments. Denise shared that she says, I totally agree. And it is important to work with parents as well to change their eating and lifestyle habits. So much information that was, and I wanted to go back up to Ruth. Ruth was sharing that obesity and diabetes is very high in people of color, but it's also due to lack of resources, financial, and also cultural. So a lot of great feedback, Jackie. Thank you again. Oh, Carmen, okay. So there's a lot of great information that was shared here today. Please take advantage of that. Again, Jackie, thank you so much.
Sorry, I received a message from ABC and Growth. Quiltivity, let me just read it. Says
Yeah,
they are
okay.
also a nonprofit nonprofit organization that focuses on helping children and young adults with special needs in the AV. They have an upcoming event in October and would like to invite the community partners to participate. She has a flyer. Hold on a second. I can paste the Facebook link for everyone to
Yeah,
see
and
the
just put
flyer.
it in the chat.
I think she did a direct message, so I think that's why
Okay.
no one's able to see it. But I'll paste it back in.
Okay.
I think that was the only direct message that I saw.
Okay, that'll be great. Thank you so much. If you would stop sharing your screen so I can get back over here. I want to share some things because we are moving right along. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, did I stop sharing?
Not yet.
Mhm.
Great information. If you want to get in touch with Jackie, if you want to share some information that you might personally have, go ahead and put in your link, the resources. Yeah, there we go. There we go. And I know that we have our next presentation, so give me one moment. I'm going to choose this. All right, awesome blossom. So we have a special presentation, State of the Child Project, and I'm going to turn this over to Sylvia Scott to introduce these next presenters because it's an awesome presentation of what they want to share with our community at Best Start. So Sylvia, I'm going to turn this over right now.
Thank you, Darrell. We're really excited about this project that we're taking off with and working with our friends from Catalyst, California, formerly known as the Advancement Project California. And what this is they have done this in several other Best Start communities, and we thought it was a great opportunity to have that happen with us as well. And what it is that the State of the Child report seeks to understand the conditions of children and families within this current moment or what we're living in right now. The report takes a hard look at how children are faring in the Antelope Valley. It identifies conditions that we should celebrate and those that we should advocate to improve. It also shows how public systems affect conditions in our community, and it also arms the community members with data needed to affect change. Chris Ringewald and his team will actually walk us through all that and give us a better, clearer understanding of what this means, but also how you as the community, we as the community can be part of this and really guide the process of this report. So with that, I'll pass it back to Chris Ringewald, Alexandra Baker, David Segovia, and Maria Khan. Thank you for being here, and I'll let you guys take it over.
Well, thank you. So I think Alex will share her screen and I'll talk, she'll do the bulk of the presentation, but just to say good morning and thank you. Appreciate the introduction and apologies for any confusion. We literally changed our name from Advancement Project California to Catalyst California this morning. It's the same great social justice organization, just new name, hopefully better explaining to folks what we do. And as Sylvia said, I'm joined by Alex Baker, Maria Khan, and David Segovia, the four of us will be leading breakout groups in a few minutes. So get ready to participate. We're going to need your participation. But in advance of that, and feel free to change the slide, Alex, I'll get a little more into the agenda. We're going to talk about the why, how, and what of the State of the Child initiative. And Sylvia said it, the where is, Region 5, Antelope Valley. And the when is really this year, this calendar year, this year until June 30th, 2023. when we want to have a report and data to you all. We will share examples of previous work. I mentioned the breakout groups where we'll get input from you into this initiative, and we'll share out some of the input highlights and then wrap up and talk about next steps. So that's the agenda for our brief talk this morning. So next slide, please, Alex. So I did want to give Sylvia and Tracy an opportunity to say a little bit more about the why. Should I hand it back to Sylvia briefly?
Yes, looking at a lot of as we're looking for data, we realize that the Antelope Valley is short on some of this data that is essential for us. And looking at this, we thought, well, this is number one is how do we inform our community and how do we inform funders? What's really happening? What's the need that's here? And so part of it is this kind of report card that comes out of the state of the child will be a tool for the community and be a tool for other partners and agencies to continue utilizing as we move ahead, and not only to identify our needs or the things that are working, but also then to use this data as tools to look for more funding that is clearly necessary in the Antelope Valley. So we really want to strengthen that coordination and giving the community the tools for advocacy, giving the community tools again for creating efforts that we're going to be able to make more systems change and disrupt some of the inequities that are happening within our community. Next slide.
Well, great. Thanks, Sylvia. So I'll talk a little bit about the process, and I appreciate seeing already one piece of great input, and we hope to learn more in breakout groups shortly. But for our process, we want as much local participation as possible, and that includes input from today. We want to look at hard data cut specifically for the Antelope Valley and communities within the Antelope Valley. For instance, some of the data that Miguel mentioned earlier. And we also want to hear from people who live and work in the Antelope Valley. And we want to use a mixed methods approach to look at both the data and the voices of the people to come to results and findings and conclusions that will be helpful to folks. And as part of that, we want to have collaborative decision making and ownership. So it's not just a consultant group making a report far away, but actually a group of local folks who are steering the report, visualizations, findings, and uses. So that's where hopefully some of you all will come in starting today. So next slide, please. So by June 30th, 2023, we hope to have a report and data with analysis describing the state of the child in the Antelope Valley. We want it to be actionable, so you can use it in a grant application. You can advocate with it to a city council or county supervisor member, or plan with it within your organization. We want to turn over all data and code to you all so that you can use it and update it as you would see fit. And an important piece I want to highlight again is we want Antelope Valley specific data, which may include collecting data from folks like you all who have access to great data or great resources that maybe need sharing more broadly with Antelope Valley stakeholders. So that's what the outcomes are to be, and I'll turn it to Alex real quick to talk a little bit more about some of the outputs we've created for state of the child work in other regions of the county, just to give you ideas of what is potentially possible here.
Thank you, Chris. So as Chris mentioned before, we really want this report to be very much so community guided, community led. So we just wanted to go over some examples of what other regions have decided to do, really based on their feedback of what the kind of data they felt was missing, what they wanted, including some of the more specialized data. So I'm going to go more into just some stuff from like the Central Long Beach and Wilmington reports that we did. So first, starting with potential topics, just to kind of get people thinking about like possible topics that could be in this report. So that can include demographics such as racial and ethnic background, socioeconomic status, education, such as early childhood education, third grade math and reading proficiency, high school graduation rates, chronic absenteeism, college readiness, etc. It could be something like regarding economic wellness. So it can be like, how much do people pay for rent? Like, how rent burdened are people? Are they paying more than 30% of their income towards rent? What is internet access like? Because that really does impact people's ability to get new jobs and like the type of jobs that they have access to. What is the labor force participation? And then like the environment. So like, are there any environmental pollutants to look out for? Is that really harming children in the community? On that same topic, like, how is health? So like, is there like a lot of like access to healthy food? Do people have asthma? Like, what are the general health conditions? And another one is child safety. So do people report feeling safe in the community? Do children feel safe going to school? Is there a lot of inappropriate policing, like things of that nature? So here's an example of kind of the more quantitative aspect. So in one that we did for Central Long Beach, one of the ones they wanted to know more about was the state of early childhood education. So like specifically in that area, we looked at like the unmet need for early childhood education for children. So we saw, like you can see here, first you have like the overall like total children that are of that pre-K age, and then the ones that are eligible for subsidies, and then the ones who are enrolled in subsidized ECE. So you see like, it's just like the unmet need. So like you see like it's actually is a lot of unmet need there. This is one that I thought was, I think, very interesting. So this, I believe, came from the Long Beach report, was one that they wanted specifically, was one related to child safety. So they felt that there were a lot of racial disparities in traffic stops. So kind of part of that inappropriate policing aspect. This is very specific to what they wanted, and just kind of to get you an idea of, but it can really be community crafted. This is more of the qualitative portion that Chris was discussing before. So we do interviews, stuff like that. This is a community spotlight that we did for Long Beach Day Nursery. It was with the head of the nursery, like with the executive director, Jennifer Allen. And what she really talked about was how like they really needed to prioritize the children of essential workers, but there was really just so much demand for child education, and like how people couldn't go back to work unless their children were cared for, and just really how even though like there are a lot of essential work categories, like unfortunately this was not considered to be one of them. So like talking about how there really was a need there, and how it really does support the labor economy. So any questions so far on kind of what we discussed so far? Let me look at the chat too.
Seeing some great input from the chat already. Appreciate it.
Also, my colleagues Maria and Diva will be responding as well. Great. Okay, so we're going to go on and move on to the discussion portion. So let me see if I can switch screens really quick. I'm going to escape. We're going to, so we have these Jamboard questions. We're going to share the link in the chat for the Jamboard. Thank you so much, Stephanie. So we're going to go into groups. Your group number will be according to the room that you're in. So for example, if you're in room 1, you'll go to like slide 1. You'll go to slide 1 where it says like question 1, group 1. And then you'll kind of discuss with the group these questions. You can either respond to them directly. So all you have to do is go to the symbol here that says sticky note, click, and then you can like do like a comment, and then it'll post your comment. So then like it'll just be there, and that's one way to do it. I think that's the easiest way. And then like we're gonna do 18 minutes consecutively. So please focus like the first 9 minutes on your first set of slides. And then we'll tell you via Zoom chat when it's time to switch to the second set. So for example, let's say you're group 1 doing question 1, then you're going to go to, you're still group 1, but now question the second set of questions. Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing.
And I'll open up the breakout rooms now.
All yours.
Awesome. Welcome back. Welcome back. I know it was a progressive and prosperous breakout room. So I'm going to turn this back over to Chris and Alexandria.
Great, thank you so much. So from each group, would it be okay to have maybe just like one person volunteer from each group about like generally like what were the topics discussed? And then we can start from there. Can we start with group 4? So for the first set of slides, like, or I could really be all of them. Like, so like what were kind of the things that came up in conversation?
We didn't pick a speaker, but I'm wondering, David, would you be okay speaking? You had a lot of great things to add to the discussion. Let us know.
Yeah, of course. Actually, I was in group 5 with Maria.
Oh, there's 2 Davids on the
there's
call.
2 Davids? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if the other David can hop on and share.
Yeah. So a lot of the things that we talked about were maybe discussing education. So we were mentioning how we serve a lot of, we have a big Latino community here in the AV, and a lot of parents are Spanish speaking. They have a hard time, with English, and maybe with their kids, we were talking about how they have difficulties with also learning the language. So with English, they mainly speak Spanish at home. They speak English with their peers and everything at school, but when it comes to their own literacy and writing skills, they're falling behind. So that's something that we encountered, that a lot of immigrant families to encounter here, that there's a lot of students are falling behind in being able to keep up with their peers in terms of being able to read and write at the level that they're supposed to be at. On top of that, we were also mentioning about the issues that families are facing here in regards to technology access. Maria brought up a great point about, we were talking about how technology access at all is an issue. How many people have access to a Chromebook, a reliable like laptop or desktop at home to be able to, for homework purposes, career development purposes. And on top of that, just with having a laptop isn't enough. So technology accessibility is a thing. What's the point of having a laptop or a desktop or some piece of technology if you're unable to use it? So technology literacy is also something that we wanted to bring into the focus here. Another issue that we also brought up was debt in the community. So specifically regarding debt held within families, the debt to income ratio, that may be, a notable barrier to families being able to provide or develop. Were there any other ones that we might have covered that I might have missed? Do you know, Maria?
I think that was great. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. That was group 5?
4.
4, okay. Can we have group 5 share next?
Yeah, I could go ahead and share. Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing some of the themes about Antelope Valley. So we discussed that there's not enough people that are informed of resources in Antelope Valley, specifically regarding recreational activities. We felt like there was not enough summer programs for teens specifically, and there's too much dependence on technology. And for the data part, we thought that it would be good to have data on the percent of children who don't have access to recreational programs, as well as children who are inactive. specifically depending too much on technology, since we already saw that that leads to obesity, as we saw from the presentation earlier. And another topic that we also discussed is homelessness and how that has been increasing over the past couple of years in Antelope Valley. So data addressing the percentage of people that are homeless would be beneficial as well. And that was group 5.
Thank you so much. May I please have somebody from group 3 share with us?
Sure. We had a couple issues that we really focused on. A lot of it is the needs for mental health services for youth and families, accessibility and quality childcare and early childhood education is also another issue. Availability of family activities or even at low cost. We also talked about having more cultural activities for the younger population, safe and healthy spaces for children and families. In terms of what are some of the data that we wanted to see, data on the school to prison pipeline within the AV. That ties into 3rd grade reading levels. More opportunities, like we were looking at policing, but really, are there opportunities for police to actually have better or more positive interactions with the youth as opposed to just like arrests? We also wanted to, more data on policing disparities. We also wanted more data on what the DCFS and its community partners are working on to continue eliminating disparities of children entering the child welfare system. So those are just a few of the things that we had.
Thank you so much. Yeah, please have somebody from group 2.
I'll go, seeing I'm the only one on video from our group. Just one highlight was talking about availability of mental health resources and other resources. Folks, having lines and not be able to get resources because they're overfilled. And then the opposite problem of resources being taken out of the community and funds going elsewhere, and people having to travel out of Antelope Valley to follow those funds. So really looking at, access to mental health and other services and the resources to provide them, I think was one highlight of ours.
Thank you. And Miguel, do you mind sharing from group 1?
Sure. Off the top of my head, and I think others can jump in if I forget something, but foster care, foster youth as a high percentage of in the Antelope Valley is one of the big issues that we talked about. I also talked about childcare, the available childcare slots versus the need for that exists for childcare age children. Some good information on that would be important. Also, special needs and the needs of parents and the children, connecting to things like summer services and the need for that. I don't think there's much information about that. And then one more was summer programming. Oftentimes there's a big need for summer programming, but it's either distant or people don't know exactly where it's at. And so there's not much information or data on that either. There was also an issue of housing. Can someone else chime in on that one?
I can chime in on that one. Oh, no, go ahead.
We were actually talking about the increase of homelessness, but also the fact that we're no longer seeing single family homes. We're now seeing more.
Oh, you went mute.
Sorry, I don't know how that happened. that the houses. Never mind, guys. Go ahead, Alexa. Take over.
Thank you, Yanida. No, yeah, so definitely, yeah, that was a really good point. So how single family homes are no longer like single family homes, they're being converted. It's like they might convert the garages, and there's now multiple families living in single family homes, and how a lot of people who came to the AV was more so for like kind of the lower rent prices, but even those prices are now skyrocketing. And what does that mean for AV residents? So, and then also on that aspect of the single family homes becoming multifamily, like how does that impact children and their quality of life and also education? Great, okay. I feel like this is a fantastic way to start and all this data, definitely. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it back to Chris to kind of talk about next steps. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen too.
Well, thanks. And basically wanted to wrap up and say thank you all for your input, your time this morning. We've now got a lot to research. Thanks to you. Just do want to note that, as mentioned, we are looking for a steering committee to help drive the decision making around this report. And so if you're interested, please email Sylvia or myself. Or if you just have any other thoughts or questions about this initiative, please don't hesitate to email Sylvia or myself with emails at the bottom. So thank you very much. And I think I'll pass it back to Darrell.
Thank you so
I just
much.
want to, sorry, Darrell, just want to throw in there real quick that, one of the things that came up is as we have these conversations, some ideas may come up later. And so we discussed that in our group that, yeah, if you have other ideas that you think it's stuff that we can add to the Jamboard, of course, please email us and let us know so we can add that as well.
Awesome. Chris, could you stop sharing? I need to share my screen. Again, thank you so much. So we're going to wrap this up. We've had a momentous meeting, and I just want to make a brief announcement for our upcoming event, which will be our Antelope Valley Stakeholders Convening. This will be taking place Monday, September 26th at 10 a.m. to 12. We're inviting you back. It's really important that you come to this one in particular. I mean, they're all great and important, but Chris and his team are going to be back to share. And so we have additional information we definitely want to provide our community and stakeholders at our next convening. So I am encouraging you to put this on your calendar, save a place for us. And again, it will be Monday, September 26th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Also follow us on Linktree. This is a great opportunity for you to find out what's happening, to connect with your Best Start AV community partners. Our Facebook is there, our Instagram is there. You can scan right there. Scan me, you can find out all information, even with our group site. And so we're encouraging you also, when you go to these various links on our Facebook, like us. When you go to our YouTube channel, would you do us a favor? Give us a thumbs up, like us, and subscribe to our channel. We want to continue to grow and provide information for our Antelope Valley. Again, thank you for joining us. We realized you could have been any place else this morning. Thank you for being a part of our Best Start family, and you have a great day.
Gracias, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Awesome.
Can you stop the